He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not special. Your dreams? They're lies you tell yourself so life doesn't feel so boring." I remember how my heart dropped. Not because I believed him, but because part of me already did. My name is Aymar. I was 21 when I first told someone I wanted to start my own company. Not just any company, the company. The kind that changes industries. The kind that's in Forbes. The kind that scares competitors and inspires kids like me. But when I said those words out loud, when I shared that little fire I'd been feeding inside my chest since I was 16, he laughed. And it wasn't the kind of laugh that made you feel warm. It was the kind that curled into your bones and stayed there. That man was my uncle. My mother's brother. The one who helped raise me after my dad died. The one who said he believed in realism, not fantasies. I grew up in a small apartment with peeling paint and dreams too big for the ceiling. My mom worked 2 jobs and slept maybe 4 hours a night. She never complained. Not once. She believed I could do anything, but she didn't have time to help me figure out how. So, I started learning on my own. I would stay up late watching interviews with CEOs, reading startup stories, copying business plans I didn't even understand. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections. But I had fire. And Wi-Fi. That was enough. College wasn't for me. I dropped out after a year. Not because I was lazy, but because every lecture felt like a cage. I wanted to build, not memorize. I wanted to create something real, something that solved a problem and made people's lives better. But every adult I knew called me foolish. "You think the world is waiting for you," they'd say. "You better get in line." My uncle was the loudest. "Dreams are lies," he told me. "They keep you distracted so you don't see the truth, that you're average." That word. Average. It haunted me. I worked jobs that didn't just leave me tired, they left me empty. Fast food joints where I flipped burgers while grease burned my arms. Warehouse night shifts where I hauled boxes so heavy my spine ached for days. Call centers where strangers screamed at me for things I couldn't control. Day after day, week after week, I gave everything I had to survive, only to come home feeling like I had nothing left. By the time I reached my front door each night, my shirt would be soaked in sweat, clinging to my skin like a second layer of defeat. My hands would be trembling from lifting too much. My feet were always blistered and raw, the skin peeling from hours on concrete floors. But it wasn't just my body that broke, it was something deeper. A slow fading in my spirit. A heavy silence inside me that whispered maybe they were right. But no matter how exhausted I was, no matter how much my body begged me to just lie down and forget, I always opened my laptop. Even if my eyelids were heavy. Even if I had to sit in the dark so I wouldn't wake anyone else. I still opened that screen and stared into that glow like it was a portal to the life I wanted. I'd scribble down ideas, some good, most terrible. I'd write business names, sketch product ideas, plan features. I had no clue how to launch a company, zero experience, but I knew I had to keep moving forward. I didn't have much, but I had that fire. I had hope. Then came the day I launched my first pitch. I'd spent 6 months building a simple little app to help small restaurant owners manage their online orders better, track deliveries, organize menus, respond to customers fast. I believed in it with everything I had. It felt like my shot. I printed flyers, practiced my pitch, got dressed like it was my wedding day. But every single person I talked to, 5 local restaurant owners, looked at me like I was a child pretending to be an adult. One interrupted me mid-sentence and said, "We're not interested." Another said, "Apps are for big chains, not us." I kept smiling. I nodded. I thanked them politely. But the moment I walked away, my chest cracked open. That night, when I got home, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. Not because I was weak, not because I was giving up, but because I was tired. So tired. Tired of trying. Tired of being invisible. Tired of chasing something that felt like it kept running from me. And in that darkness, one thought echoed louder than the rest. What if they're right? What if my dreams really were just lies I told myself to survive? Then, one night, one of those nights where sleep wouldn't come, and the world felt unbearably silent, I found something that changed my entire life. I was scrolling aimlessly through a dusty corner of a startup forum, hoping to distract my restless mind, when I came across a short post by a guy named Jordan. Early 30s, confident but not arrogant. He'd started something called an incubator for people who had ideas but no funding, no network, no roadmap, just raw belief. He said they were opening one slot, just one, for someone who didn't fit the mold. Someone who hadn't been to business school. Someone who hadn't been groomed for success. Someone like me. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Then I hit reply. But instead of a polished resume or a formal application, I sent him a voice message. I was too broke to afford a good mic, so I used the voice recorder on my cracked phone. And I didn't pretend. I didn't try to sound like someone I wasn't. I told him the truth. That I was broke. That I had failed. That I didn't have any investors, or a team, or a clue. But I also told him that I was obsessed with fixing problems. With building something that helped the little guys, the forgotten shops on the corners, the taco trucks and family diners who couldn't compete with the tech giants. I told him I wanted to build a platform that gave those people a fighting chance. And I ended with a promise, if you give me one shot, just one. I swear I won't waste it. 2 days later, I got an email with one line. You're in. I stared at it for 5 minutes straight, too scared to believe it was real. Then I screamed so loud I woke up the neighbors. The incubator wasn't some sleek Silicon Valley dream space. It was a modest room with flickering lights and second-hand desks in a shared co-working space downtown. The floor creaked, the coffee was awful, and the Wi-Fi went out every few days. But to me, it was heaven. Because it was mine. It was the place where people like me were allowed to try. There were 2 mentors, ex-founders who had been through the fire themselves. They didn't sugarcoat anything. They pushed us, challenged us, forced us to explain why we were building what we were building. I soaked up every lesson like my lungs needed it to breathe. Customer validation. Rapid testing. How to pivot. How to pitch. Every night, I went home more tired than I'd ever been, but also more alive. I got paired with a young developer named Amir, quiet guy, brilliant coder. We were total opposites, but something just clicked. We became a machine. We stayed up late every night tweaking the product, fixing bugs, sketching out interfaces on napkins. We argued. We laughed. We almost gave up. Twice. But we kept going. And then, finally, our first client. Maria. She ran a taco truck 2 blocks from my apartment. Her English wasn't great, but her determination was. I showed her our app, just a beta version, but she saw the value. We helped her set up a simple online system to take pre-orders. Within 3 weeks, her sales had nearly doubled. No joke. She started prepping food earlier, making more, and finishing earlier. More time with her kids. Less stress. Then she told her cousin. Then her cousin told another friend. 3 months later, we had 15 clients. Then 50. Then 100. My phone never stopped buzzing. I barely slept. I didn't go out. I didn't tell the world on social media. I just worked. I built. I listened. I fixed. I broke things and fixed them again. And every time a new client signed up, every time a small shop owner said, "Thank you, this helps," I felt like I was stacking bricks on the foundation of a life I was told I could never build. I wasn't just proving my uncle wrong. I was proving myself right. Then, one morning, it happened. I checked my inbox, half asleep, and saw an email from a major tech firm, one of the giants. They said they had been following my product, watching the traction, and were interested in acquiring it. I clicked on the proposal. My eyes widened. It was a life-changing amount of money. 7 figures. Enough to pay off my mother's debts. Enough to buy a house. Enough to never worry again. I sat in silence for 10 full minutes, the number glowing on the screen like a fantasy. Part of me wanted to jump out of my seat. Scream. Accept. Celebrate. I'd done it. I had finally made it, right? But something inside me didn't cheer. Something inside me hesitated. I thought of Maria. I thought of all the other business owners who trusted me, who saw me as more than just a vendor. They saw me as a partner. I thought about how this platform had become more than an app. It was a mission. A movement. A quiet rebellion against the idea that only the rich and powerful could win. And I realized something. This offer, this money, it wasn't the finish line. It was a test. And I knew in my bones I wasn't building this to sell. I was building this to lead. So I said no. People thought I was insane. Even my mentor pulled me aside, almost begging, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I wasn't sure. But I believed. And sometimes, belief is louder than certainty. A year later, the company wasn't just surviving. It was thriving in ways I once only dared to scribble in notebooks under dim lights at 2 a.m. We had grown from a scrappy two-person team sharing a single second-hand laptop with missing keys and a cracked screen, to a buzzing, purpose-driven squad of 40 brilliant, relentless, wildly creative individuals. Designers who thought in colors I hadn't even imagined. Developers who spoke in code like it was poetry. Marketers who made the world care. Customer support representatives who turned problems into loyalty. Real people. Real salaries. Real families relying on what we were building. We weren't working out of cafes anymore or borrowing co-working desks. We moved into our own space, a real office, one with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that caught the light just right in the mornings. There were beanbags in the corners, laughter in the hallways, a fridge stocked with energy drinks and too many kinds of milk. I gave everyone full benefits, flexible hours, mental health days. Because this wasn't just a startup anymore. It was a movement. And I wanted to build a company people wanted to stay at. We built smarter tools, added more groundbreaking features, and expanded our reach into 3 new cities. Cities that once felt like distant dots on a map I could never afford to visit. Our story got picked up by TechCrunch. Then came the interviews, the podcast features, and eventually, our very own mini documentary on YouTube. I watched it with my team the night it aired. We cried. All of us. But the moment that hit me the hardest? That one wasn't on camera. That one was personal. I went back. Back to the neighborhood I once ran from like it was a fire chasing my feet. The same block where I used to come home exhausted from shifts that crushed my body and my hope at the same time. Where I used to look up at the sky and wonder if my dreams were just some cruel joke. I walked past the cracked sidewalk I once tripped over carrying a bag of rejected resumes. And then, I reached his house. My uncle's. The man who once looked me dead in the eyes and told me I was average. That dreams were distractions. That believing I was special was a dangerous illusion. I knocked. He answered. He looked different. Older, yes, but also, smaller, somehow. Like life had chipped away at the sharp edges that once made him so sure of himself. He didn't say much at first. Just poured me a cup of coffee, like old times. The kitchen hadn't changed. Same chipped counter. Same ticking clock. Same chair where I once sat and questioned everything I believed in. He took a sip. Then looked up with that half smile of his. So, he said, voice casual but with something behind it. How's that little project of yours going? I looked him straight in the eye. My hands were steady. My voice didn't shake. It's not a project anymore, I said. It's a company. And I'm the CEO. The words didn't come out as revenge. They weren't said to hurt or to gloat. They came from a place deeper than that, a place of truth. He didn't respond right away. Just stared at me. I expected a laugh. A joke. A shrug. But instead, he nodded. Slowly. Thoughtfully. Then his eyes met mine again, and for the first time in my life, they softened. No lectures. No sarcasm. No denial. Just pride. Raw. Quiet. Unspoken. But real. And in that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. He wasn't just wrong about me, he was scared for me. Scared because he'd once had dreams too. Dreams he let go of. And seeing mine come true forced him to face the ones he left behind. You know what's funny? The people who tell you your dreams are lies, they're not always trying to hurt you. Sometimes, they're just trying to protect themselves from the pain of remembering who they used to be. The versions of them that still believed. The kids who once wanted to fly before they learned how to fall. They don't always do it out of cruelty. Sometimes, they do it out of fear. Not because they were lazy. Not because they didn't care. But because, somewhere along the way, someone else convinced them that settling was safer than striving. That playing it small was smarter than risking it all. That dreams were dangerous. But let me tell you something. They were wrong. Dead wrong. Because dreams? They're not lies. They're not illusions. They're blueprints. Blueprints drawn not with perfect lines and rulers, but with fire and fear, failure and persistence, blood and doubt, tears and the kind of stubborn hope that keeps you breathing when everything else tells you to stop. They don't come with instructions. No step-by-step guide. No guarantee. They're messy. Unpredictable. Exhausting. But they're yours. And that matters more than anything. Because when the world laughs at you, when investors say no, when your friends stop calling and your bank account hits zero, when your family doubts you, when your own reflection whispers, maybe they're right. You hold those dreams tighter. You look them in the eye and say, I see something you don't. And I won't stop until the world sees it too. Because just because they can't see it, Just because they don't believe in it, doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean it's not coming. Every empire started with a ridiculous idea. Every movement began as someone's impossible dream. So if you're carrying something inside you that won't die, don't kill it. Feed it. Protect it. Build it. Even when you're tired. Especially when you're tired. Because the people who change the world? They're not the ones who never doubted. They're the ones who kept going even when they did.